5,000 rounds, one gun, and one honest review. This is the Staccato HDP4.5 in all its glory. Woo, look at that, shiny. And actually, after I learned a little more about lubrication while I was at Staccato Ranch, it's made it even better. Seems like every Staccato review on YouTube falls into one of two categories. It's either first shots, some guy took it out of a box, fired a couple hundred rounds, told you it's perfect, or whatever they told you, or a competition review, some USPSA shooter ran it through stages and told you whether it's fast enough for matches and if it's good for matches. I mean, both can be useful, but neither one really tells you what real world after 5,000 rounds, and if you're not a grandmaster or you just been given the gun to do a review or whatever. You're just some guy who carries it, shoots it at the range mostly, and needs it to work at 2 in the morning. Well, that's what this is. I mean, there's cheaper options that can do that well too, but this gun started the 2011 boom. It's high quality, buttery smooth operation. It's American manufacturing quality. It's backed by an awesome warranty. And if you're willing to spend a little extra on this, then this is your gun. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way now. I'm not shilling for Staccato. Seems the term shilling is so in vogue on GunTube lately. They didn't give me this gun. I paid for it with my own money. And also, I genuinely like it. This has been one of my favorite all-around guns. Oh, I do love my XC. I think it's the frame and the Glock mags I think I really like, with this HD line. That and the deleted grip safety. I thought I didn't really care about grip safeties too much, I guess, until I didn't have one on it, and I really like it. We'll talk about that later. Welcome back to the Grumpy Paratrooper. I'm David, and this is the Staccato HDP4.5. It has a 4.5-inch sight block barrel, 17 rounds and 9mm with a standard magazine, and takes Glock mags. Yes, Glock mags in a 2011. It's not a typo. Duty-rated polymer grip, flat wire recoil system with a plastic buffer. Optic mounting system. Optic sits further back, closer to your eye. Firing pin block to make it drop safe. It's supposed to have, around a 4.5 pound trigger. Mine is 3 pounds exactly and super crisp. I think I'm just lucky. The trigger's awesome. No grip safety. Staccato removed it for the HD line, which is a correct decision for a carry gun, for me anyway. The gun in this configuration cost about $3 grand. So I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. You deserve an honest truth at this price point. And the honest truth includes a story about a piece of lead, a story about lubrication of a 2011, and a story about what happens when you finally do it right. Let's go ahead and get into it. So round 1 through this gun, the slide locked up, wouldn't go into battery. My first thought was great. I spent $3K and I can't make it past the first set of magazines. This is exactly what the Reddit LARP warrior soldiers warn you about. So I field stripped it. I checked everything, and there it was, a small piece of lead. That's actually a good sized piece of lead. The debris probably came from the lead coming off a steel target. So I was walking 25 yards back, walking up to 7 yards, but side note here on the 7 yards thing, it is kind of dangerous to shoot steel at 7 yards. You should be back at least, 10, 15 probably. Well, anyway, lead made it inside. So whether it's from the port or the open side cuts on the slide, it was sitting right there where the disconnector rides, a tiny chunk that was preventing the slide from fully cycling. So I finally cleared it, I put the gun back together, threw some oil in it, and from that point forward, I shot over 4,000 rounds, and not a single malfunction. Gun was fine. So now, is that a Staccato quality control issue? No. A duty gun should even run with some debris inside the slide, but this was an unusual event. If your HD has issues in the first, so many rounds, strip it, clean it, make sure there's no debris inside. Don't panic, and I guess don't run to Reddit and write a post titled, Staccato ruined my life. Just clean it, shoot it, or I guess be that guy. This is the part of video where I save you some frustration. So after I cleared the lead debris, the gun ran, again, it was well over 4,000 rounds, or about 4,000 rounds, I guess, when this happened. And the slide failed to go into battery. So it was loading the round in, and it wasn't quite getting it all the way in. The slide wouldn't fully close. Got, a higher round count on the spring as well. So I'd fire, slide wouldn't come all the way forward, it would stop just short. The gun had a very light coat of oil on it. So I hadn't shot it in a few weeks. I had just cleaned it the last time, so it was clean, and I just put a really light coat of oil on it from cleaning. I oiled the rails. I think I put a couple drops of oil in the rails before I started the shoot there. I was on the Havoc courses there, and I was running a Havoc course. I was actually doing a walkthrough on this one for the first time. And I had some problems there at the end of the Havoc course, shooting at the last target there on the course, and it just kept failing to go into battery. So the armor looked at it, said no issues there really. I went over to another Havoc course. There was another instructor over there, and he looked at the gun, and I told him what was going on. And he said, you've got to oil this in some specific places. And then he went on to show me that, and it was awesome. Actually did that right there on the spot. and then I proceeded to run the course, not a single failure again. Oil on the rails, a couple other spots around the barrel and you're good. Well, that's what I thought, but that's wrong, at least for this gun. The Staccato HD series, this is a 2011, not a Glock, not a SIG, not a standard polymer pistol. It needs oil in specific places. The rails are one of those places, but they're not the only places. And if you only oil the rails, this gun will let you know. You know, around 400 rounds or so is where I was at with that real light coat of oil, and mine started to fail to go into battery consistently, repeatedly, and it was frustrating. So here's what Staccato's own lubrication guide says, and this is straight from their official procedure. The HD needs oil in these specific locations. So a long bead of lubricant across the top half of the barrel just behind the muzzle. A small amount on top of the recoil guide rod, also just behind the muzzle. Rack the slide a few times, spread the oil across all contact surfaces. Oil around the edge of the barrel hood, part of the barrel exposed by the ejection port cutout. Flip the gun over, oil the rear of each slide rail, and this is the one I missed, oil the disconnector rail. That's the flat rectangular ledge that runs down the middle of the underside of the slide. It's critical. This is where my under lubrication problem lived. I also missed this one, oil raised portion of the slide where the disconnector rides on both sides, including around the plunger and on the plunger itself. Apply a small drop on the thumb safety groove on each side of the frame and then work that several times. Then rack the slide, 3, 5, 6, 7 times, whatever you want, to work all that oil around the contact surfaces. That's the Staccato procedure. It's not that hard. It takes about 60 seconds. But if you skip the disconnector rail around the plunger area like I did, you could have problems with it going into battery, especially, as you fired more rounds and maybe the spring gets a little bit worn. It doesn't need a swimming pool of oil like some 2011s that drip CLP like they're bleeding. It needs strategic oil in specific places. Do that and this gun runs. Don't do that, and the gun can complain pretty loudly. Staccato recommends relubricating every 1 to 2,000 rounds. I've been doing it roughly around every 1,000 rounds, or when I clean it, I put a light coat on it. All right, 5,000 rounds. Let's talk about what this actually looks like. Slide finish on Staccato uses a DLC coating, that's diamond light carbon if you don't know, and after 5,000 rounds, there's some visible wear on the contact points on the slide where it rides the frame. That's normal. Two metal surfaces rubbing against each other for 5,000 cycles, and actually a lot more than that with dry fire, and then just racking the thing. They're going to show it. The DLC hasn't flaked or peeled. It's worn thin at the contact points and still intact everywhere else. No issues there. The barrel's a sight block barrel, and it doesn't show very much wear at the muzzle contact point and along the hood. Again, normal. The barrel still locks up tight. No play, no looseness. The sight block design means the barrel slide are mated as one unit during cycling, which is why this gun stays so accurate over time. No barrel bushing to wear out and introduce slop. The recoil system has a flat wire spring with a plastic buffer. The buffer shows a little wear, but it's not destroyed or anything, showing a little bit of age. After 5,000 rounds, I'd replace it. It's a cheap part, but don't wait for it to fail. Replace it on schedule. The flat wire spring itself is still functional. Spring tension, it's a little bit softer now, but the gun cycles the same as it did day one. Staccato recommends you replace the spring and plastic buffer at the same time. If you don't like that, there's a couple other options you can Google up. I don't mind it, and I've never once heard the plastic buffer moving around inside the gun. Can I make it make noise? Yes, and I have by shaking it. But just using the gun as intended, I've never really noticed it myself. People still nitpick it, but HK uses the same system and so do some others. The polymer grip frame shows zero structural issues. No cracking, no loosening at the slide to, frame to slide junction. The grip texture is still aggressive enough. It hasn't worn smooth like some polymer grips do after heavy use. Staccato grip texture seems to hold up pretty well. The trigger on my gun is 3 pounds. That's factory, clean break. My guess is it should be a little harder than that, but around 4.5, but for a duty gun, but mine was 3 and it still is. It's just perfect. For me anyway. At 5,000 rounds, the trigger still feels the same as it did on round 1. No creep added, no change in weight that I can measure anyways with a gauge. That's what a duty rated trigger should do, stay the same. But it's a little bit light for a duty trigger for me, or for this gun anyway. But I like it a lot. Overall verdict on wear at 5,000 rounds, the gun looks like it's been used, but it does not look like it's been abused. The wear is cosmetic and normal. The function's unchanged. If you're looking for a gun that stays tight after heavy use, this one does. All right, we're at the range. Same question as always. How does this gun shoot for someone who isn't running USPSA stages on the weekends? For someone who carries it and shoots it once or twice a month, and needs to make hits in the hallway at night. 5 rounds slow, 5 rounds rapid. The Staccato HDP4.5 shoots flat. That's not marketing, that's fact. Sight block barrel design locks the barrel and slide together during cycling, which means the sight picture barely moves between shots. You see the dot, you pull the trigger, the dot dips, the dot comes back, you pull the trigger again. For a practical shooter, not a competitor, this means faster follow-up shots with less training. But you should always get training. The gun does half the work for you, it seems. The groups at moderate speed are tight. But home defense in a hallway tight, headshot tight at 10 yards, center mass tight at 15, well, this gun's accurate enough that it's my mistakes are the problem, not the guns. Nightstand drill. So we're going to rack and slap some on the steel. So the staccato trigger makes this pretty easy. You know, under stress, simplicity matters, and this isn't the most simple. You still have to take it off safe. It's not a Glock. You can't just pick it up and fire. But that flat recoil impulse means that dot is going to track up and down in that window for the second shot. And it should be a lot easier to acquire. It is for me. Just press, and done. All right, so now it's time to call the hits and misses in this gun. First off, what I like, the trigger. Best factory trigger on any duty pistol I've shot. 3 pounds clean break, tactile reset. No aftermarket needed. Glock mag compatibility. This is genius. The 2011 platform has always been hamstrung by expensive, finicky magazines. Staccato solved that by letting you use the most common, most affordable magazine in the world, Glock mags. You can buy them anywhere. You can afford to buy a lot of them. No grip safety. Staccato removed it for the HD line. That was the correct decision for me anyway. Carry gun that has a grip safety depends on your grip being perfect while your adrenaline's rushing. The host optic mount, the optic sits further back, close to your eye, bigger window. Even a large optic causes no issue with brass getting caught in the optic or getting completely covered by carbon, especially with the rear sight in front of the optic to deflect gas, and it works well. The SIG P211 sure can't say that. That thing gets nasty. That optic is covered. The sight block barrel keeps the gun accurate over time, no bushing, no wear, no slop developing. The recoil impulse, flat, faster follow-ups, less training required to shoot well. Now what I don't like, probably what a lot of people don't like, the price. I mean, this one was almost $3K. That's real money. But for the money, you're getting a high-quality American-made firearm. The customer service is second to none, seriously. The lubrication requirement. This gun requires specific oil in specific places. I mean, if you treat it like a Glock, oil the rails, call it done, you might see some failures come into battery. I'm not a fan of the plastic buffer and recoil guide rod, but I will say Staccato's not the only brand that uses the plastic buffer to improve the performance characteristics of the gun. The lightning cuts on the frame. Well, this one's on me. Carrying this gun, I can see the debris that can get into it, and from now on, I'll get a carry gun with slide cuts left off of it. I don't need to see the barrel. And, you know, I paid extra money for this. Well, this is how I've rated the gun here. Reliability, B+. So, 0 malfunctions after lubrication, but lead was able to get into the system. I had some failures to go into battery on the gun. But the gun is reliable once you know how to maintain it. You know, it's not reliable out of the box if you treat it like a Glock. Accuracy, I give this thing an A+. That sight block barrel keeps this gun tight at 5,000 rounds. No degradation, no slop. The gun's more accurate than most shooters who will buy it. Shootability, I give it an A+. Flat recoil, clean trigger, Glock mag compatibility. This gun makes a decent shooter even better. Durability, I give it an A. The gun holds up. The finish shows some wear. The buffer needs replacement along with the spring at regular maintenance. No issue there. But for me, the slide cuts I got did introduce debris that caused me some issues. The polymer grip frame is solid. Overall durable, but not immortal. It needs maintenance. It's not a Glock that you can neglect for 5 years and it's still fine. Overall verdict, field worthy, conditional. This gun's field worthy for home defense, duty carry, practical shooting, once you understand the lubrication requirement and how to maintain it properly. It's not field worthy for someone who wants a maintenance-free pistol, so who should buy the Staccato HDP4.5? Well, if you're a practical shooter, you want a flat shooting, accurate, duty-rated pistol with one of the best factory triggers in the business, you're willing to follow a specific lubrication schedule that takes 60 seconds every 1,000 rounds, you want Glock magazine compatibility, you want a 2011 experience without 2011 magazine headaches, and you're willing to pay the price it demands, then that's who should buy it. So who shouldn't buy this gun? Well, if you want a pistol that you can neglect, you want to oil the rails and forget it, you don't want to think about lubrication points, maintenance schedules, you don't want to spend $2,600 plus on a pistol, any of those, well then buy a Glock 17 Gen 6 or an M&P 2.0. They'll run with less attention, they cost less, and they won't shoot as flat or as sweet, but they're lighter and they will run. The Staccato HDP4.5 is an awesome gun if you maintain it. Well, y'all, that's 5,000 rounds with a Staccato HDP4.5. That's my honest truth. You know, lead debris one day, lubrication issues around 4,000 rounds. But otherwise, it really ran flawless. And, you know, I think Staccato did it right here. This gun's outstanding when maintained correctly. If you like this content, please hit that subscribe. If you don't, hit that subscribe anyway. You'll be glad you did. And as always, y'all stay safe, y'all stay frosty, and we will catch you in the next one. Grumpy out.